Migrants moved from one hotel to another. Asylum seekers have been moved out of taxpayer-funded hotels and then simply being moved to other hotels. Emptying a hotel and then moving the migrants onto other hotels where there are empty rooms because many of the migrants have left due to being given the right to stay in the UK. Ahmadi, who fled Afghanistan and crossed the Channel, was moved into a seafront hotel in Folkestone when he arrived in the UK. Before Christmas, Ahmadi and 5 others were sent to a hotel in Bournemouth. "I am not happy here," he said from his new room, which he shares with a stranger. He said he used to go to school in Folkestone, but since being moved he spends all day in the hotel. "I don't do anything," he went on to say. Another asylum seeker from Afghanistan who has been moved from one hotel to another. He arrived on a small boat in 2022. He says he will now be unable to continue attending college, where he was studying English and GCSE maths, as his new hotel is too far away. He states he had no choice but to move. "The hotel tell us that if you cancel this process you must sleep on the road like a homeless person," he says. "I am also not happy to stay in hotel accommodation because I want to work. I want to start a new life and I cannot do something right now, just sleep and eat," he says. He currently has a solicitor chasing the Home Office for a decision on his claim. The government has already closed 50 hotels down to migrants, reduced the number from 398 to 348, with a promise to house them in cheaper types of accommodation like the Bibi Stockholm barge or former military bases. Some recent headlines in the last days, weeks, months even, when it comes to some of the hotels that have been put back into public service, so to speak. So there's been a varying amount of hotels what are obviously back now to be booked at some point. I imagine it might take them a couple of weeks, months to get them back before the maybe Easter holidays. Then obviously the summer holidays where people maybe want to rebook or book at these particular venues, and whether they've got the same loyalty. I can imagine a lot of people are quite disgusted now. Some of these hoteliers have treated not just the staff but the people who booked accommodation, especially weddings and stuff like that. Only time will tell. And then you've got the heartbreaking stories from obviously asylum seekers saying they've got roots in the area and they don't want to be moved for various reasons, saying they've got to go to school or they've formed relationships. Then you've obviously got the next thing to what's been under some scrutiny, and that's these other accommodations, the former military bases, which seem to be coming under a lot of scrutiny in recent weeks and months. For just using Wethersfield as a good example, where I think it's up to 100 people have now left Wethersfield for mental health issues, and that seems to continue. The Bibi Stockholm, whether more people are going to go on to that, I don't know exactly the amount of people on that, because again people have been taking off that through mental health issues. So I imagine at some point, because obviously even we're looking at 2024 and more have still come over, so they're going to probably have to reopen these hotels again. They might be taking, I don't know what they're going to do, I really don't, because obviously what the government's done, it's given it, in my opinion, like an amnesty for a lot of these people, whatever you want to call it or not, and they've fast-tracked a lot of people, especially if they come from certain countries, and they're giving them a right to stay, and I think they'll do the same again. So basically they're emptying the hotels, which is true what they're saying, but they'll soon be full again. And what they'll be doing, obviously the people who've now left the hotels, they're in sort of in between. When I say in between, they've got so many days to find some fixed accommodation. That's when you're hearing all these sort of saber rattling stories from like Care for Calais and other groups saying, well, these guys are homeless and stuff like that, but most of them will find somewhere to live. And there's many people out there, a lot of charities will actually take these people on board, maybe stay with people who work within the charities, which have seen, until they get some fixed accommodation, shared accommodation, which in most cases happens. But then again, it causes a big squeeze on housing as a whole. It's going to be, I think it'll be a major crisis again in 2024, especially at the lower end, for ordinary people who are competing just to get the first rung on the ladder, so to speak, in the housing market, even just get a flat for themselves or any sort of accommodation. It's going to be difficult because a lot of these, I call them, buccaneers, privateers, whatever you want to call them, who are exploiting the system by working with the government, like Clear Springs, who are making an absolute fortune. And a lot of landlords are going with Clear Springs because they're getting more money for actually letting asylum seekers that live in their particular accommodation, for example. Yeah, so it's just these sort of types of headlines you see when, you know, like you've got the Sky News, BBC, Channel 4 going on about what's happening with these asylum seekers. It's like they're being hard done to because they're getting moved. And you do question even why some are actually in the hotels in the first place, because some shouldn't even be here in the first place. But they're going to get moved, and eventually they'll get asylum, then they'll be moved on to something else, and that's what it's going to continue. So I don't see an end in sight in this. So while the government's sort of celebrating, or some people are part of the government thinking it's great news that some of these hotels now are reopened, I think it's only a matter of time before some of them again start taking asylum seekers at some point, because at the moment these former military camps are just not working, and there doesn't seem to be anybody going on them. But there's still people coming over it. So it's only a matter of time basically before the empty spaces, empty rooms in the hotels, which were made empty because of people given right to remain, are full again. And eventually there'll be more hotels being used again. Again, that's my opinion. I might be totally wrong. All right, thank you. Thanks for your support. I'll catch up with you soon. I didn't mention Rwanda deliberately because it's just a smoke screen. Just ignore it, really. It's absolutely irrelevant what's happening in Rwanda. We've already seen, I think it's up to 350 migrants have arrived in the last couple of days, and maybe more today. So it's absolutely irrelevant. So sorry about not mentioning Rwanda earlier on, but it is, honestly, it's just forget about it.